So welcome back to 300 Seconds from Cannes. Today I'm joined by James Wilde, who's the Chief Growth Officer at Croud. So welcome, James. How are
Thanks,
you?
Patrick. Good, yeah.
Yeah, how's your Cannes been so far?
It's been good. It's been intense, interesting, fun, everything I guess you'd want in a
Yeah,
week, and hot.
it's definitely been hot. And again, this is obviously your first visit here in your new role.
Yeah.
And has it been a different experience being kind of the newbie, or it's everything you expected?
Um, it's been nice talking to people about Crowd, not knowing what their reaction is, and most people who know us have a sort of underlying positivity towards the agency,
Right.
even if they know a little bit about us or a lot.
Yes.
Um, which, having spent the rest of my career in networks,
It's not always quite the same.
Always the case.
No, no.
So that's nice. So whether they just know a little bit about the story, the founder story, or whether they know even a bit more, or if they know nothing, and then I tell them a bit of the story or bore them with some details, that there's a lot of positivity there.
Yeah.
I think indies especially are quite nicely placed at the moment, given the macroeconomic
Absolutely. Yeah.
thing that's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I spent 25 years. I'm aging myself here. 25 years in holdcos, and I left and found this vibrant, independent sort of agencies where they've got a heart and a soul, and people love working there, and they've got a culture. And it was very refreshing to experience that again. I would say again. So thank you for joining us. Obviously, you've been in your role now. Is it
4 months?
4 months. 4 months. Yeah. And I'm sure it's been a very steep learning curve, and a very interesting learning curve, given who Crowd are. If you think about, and I know it's early days for you, so you'll have to maybe use some imagination, but if you think about your role over the next 12 months, do you see the tasks and the challenges for growth are going to be quite different from what you probably understood for the last year?
Yeah, I think it's always changing. I think one of the things I've learned, and I think this is maybe indicative of both the indie sector of the market, but also the way clients are going, is it feels like not for the big blue chip brands,
Yeah.
but for the majority of the mid market, the era of multi-year relationships, 3 years doing the same thing, are kind of pretty much gone.
Interesting.
And lots of the brands we work with, we might just work with them on an initial 12-month contract. And lots of the conversations we're having are very much around project-based stuff. The project could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months, it could be 8 months, but brands just seem to be much more comfortable increasingly working with lots of different agencies because they want to get the best things that they can get. And I think marketeers are cognizant of the fact that the spectrum of things that they need to do is just getting bigger and bigger.
So big, yeah.
And whilst there might be ease and convenience of going with one or two core agency partners that they may have done in yesteryear, that's just not practical for the modern spectrum of of capabilities that's required. So that makes my job a bit harder, because I could be having one conversation specifically about attribution for a brand, and that's all they want to do with us, and then flip to talking about someone we're going to take all of their performance media. But it can be different conversations every day, and I think it's more varied, makes it more interesting potentially. But it's definitely a change I've seen, and where I think next 12 months I'm going to have to be doing a lot more in my team, be a lot more flexible in those conversations.
Yeah. I almost feel, I wouldn't say sorry for clients, but we live in the world of media, and I can barely keep up with media. They have to understand media, creative, branding. For a client in today's world, just to keep on top of their needs just must be exhausting. So
yeah, and I also think the clients have never been precious about agencies staying in their lane. Agencies have been quite precious about it.
Right. Yeah.
But I think now even agencies are getting a little bit less precious about staying in their lane, because we can do more things. Technology allows us to do more things and be multifaceted in what we can offer.
Yeah.
So it just makes and that bears out in the people that we're competing against in pitches. No one pitch list is the same, and sometimes you'll see one of the agencies you're competing against, and you didn't even realise they had the same offering as we do.
Yeah.
And that's quite challenging, but that's how fast things are moving.
Absolutely. Obviously, at Croud, you guys have a very unique business model with your, I think it's 2,500 crowdies. What part of your agency model do you think is going to have to evolve the most to support your growth?
Yeah, so we've got to have the crowding network. It's one of the things I was most excited about starting at Croud, was because having something genuinely unique in the market that you can go out and sell.
Yeah, which in our world is quite unicorns.
Rare.
Yeah.
The challenge actually I've found internally has been that because we've had it for quite a while and it's always evolved and changed, especially people who've been at the agency a long time, they take it for granted.
Right.
And actually,
they don't know how good it is almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And anyone who comes in new is very excited about it. When I speak to intermediaries, pitch consultants, clients, media owners, tech partners, every time I get re-energized by their reaction to what the network does and can do. And then I'm trying to imbue that back into some of the people that we take for granted back at the ranch. The network has always evolved. So even though the size of the network over the years has stayed the same, the composition of it has changed dramatically every year in terms of people.
Yeah.
And Croud's very acquisitive. We bought 5 businesses in the last 5 years. We have dedicated M&A people. We got recent new private equity investment last year. And again, the plan is to continue buying and building. And what that means is when we buy a new agency business, be that specialist in CRM or attribution or social first creative, what we're doing effectively is we are hiring gatekeepers and judge people who can give judgment on that new specialism to Croud, so that they can then have people in the crowding network that can do that thing.
Right.
So a year and a half ago, we wouldn't have had many attribution, advanced analytics specialists on the network, because we didn't necessarily have the people within Croud who could tell those crowdies whether that work was good or brilliant,
right,
or not good enough. So that's the way that we're evolving, is every time we build the agency further by acquiring, we're actually acquiring people who can then go and build out the network further, because they know what good looks like in that specialism.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It must be, and I say, though you're only 4 months in, it must be cognitively taxing to keep up with the speed that Croud is moving at the moment. It
is, but that's quite exciting.
Yes.
The speed. People told me before I moved to Croud that I would notice just the speed, because of the bureaucracy and the red tape, obviously, in networks, and it's understandable why it's there.
Yeah.
I don't think I was quite prepared for the sheer speed, and it's not necessarily because we're moving too fast or we're trying to run at things faster than we should. It's just because there's so few layers of people going yes or no, or wanting their input, or imagine the racy model where it's consulted is like a list of 35 people. It's very, very lean, and that's great, especially in what I do.
You need fast, pragmatic decisions, yeah.
And I think that speed also translates to the speed in which we do things for clients.
Yeah.
And even like we won a pitch a couple of weeks ago, and the client obviously says, how soon can you start? And I gave, and obviously you're always trying to give an answer that's balanced in terms of realistic but also attractive.
Yeah.
And I gave an answer that was a sheer matter of weeks. And as soon as I said it, I thought, can we actually deliver this? But I thought, no, we can, and we will. I would never have done that in networks.
No.
I would never have said, sure, we can onboard you.
3 to 6 months, yes.
We've got this big, proven transition plan this long. So it's good. In that way, it's good.
Sounds exciting. So when you think about growth within Croud, where do you see it coming from? Is it new clients? Is it, like at 300 we talk about, which are the generic terms, but protect and grow. So it's your organic growth, it's your land and expand, it's your little ones that then blow out, and then there's the glory ones, the next big win. Where is it you see growth is coming from for you guys?
There's obviously decent growth in all of those areas. I think back to my earlier point around the spectrum of services we offer and how that grows every time that we acquire, it means from a land and expand point of view, there's tons of things that we can do for clients in
Yeah.
month 1 of relationships through to month 6 through to month 12. So that cross-sell and upsell is a really big area for us. I also think the nature of Croud and the agency we are is quite likely that the engagement we might have for a client to start with might just be to do 1 or 2 channels.
Right.
So invariably it's just going to grow and grow and grow if we prove ourselves and take other bits of the business. So that's a bit of a shift I've had to get used to. I also think there's less set piece pitch opportunities than there probably were. All the intermediaries I speak to, they seem like they're still busy, but the percentage of their time that's doing special projects for clients, in-housing something, consulting on something, it seems to be much bigger than it used to be. So the opportunities are there, but they're maybe less explicit than they were.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's about really just fostering those long-term relationships with clients, and just trying to, I guess, spot things and not just wait for them to an RFP to land.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an RFP in the door.
There we go. Yeah.
I don't think that's the world we're in necessarily anymore, particularly outside of the really top tier clients.
Absolutely. So at 300, we talk to clients about long-term growth. So basically building commercial resilience within the agency. What do you think agencies underestimate the most when it comes to sustainable, resilient growth?
That's a good question. I think maybe that the problem that they were trying to solve for a client on day 1 is probably already evolved by the 2nd or 3rd month.
Or 2nd or 3rd week for you guys?
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not. Yeah, it's just. I think that constantly checking in and not just trying to deliver on either the pitch promise or that initial meeting or whatever it was. Constantly checking to see have their requirements changed. What do they need? We're really trying to speak to clients a lot about where they are going in their broader business and then how that might affect what they do from a marketing point of view. So, for example, we work with a lot of fashion clients, and we also work with quite a few finance clients, and both of them, those types of clients, are very, say, concerned, excited, probably an equal measure about AI and search and how that's going to change the way that people interact with their brands. So almost more fundamental questions that are still quite close to what we do in terms of planning and buying their media, but engaging with them and trying to help them on that journey, because especially those things that everyone's learning together.
Yeah. It does be interesting. It feels like you probably have quite a different perspective just 4 months in, very different perspective on things than when you were at a holdco. Mm-hmm. Even the words you're saying, it's speed, it's agility, which is very at odds to the behemoth structured things that you get from the holdcos. So it must be a very interesting task for you. I can't imagine your brain sits still very often at this place.
It's good, but it's never. I guess every week is quite different, which is such a cliche, but it's not even just changing the way that we're approaching things all the time.
Yeah.
I think clients appreciate that, the flexibility.
Yeah. So at 300, we talk to agencies about building a culture of growth. So it's embedded, certain habits are embedded across the whole agency, because ultimately you're the head of growth, but you've got thousands of people behind you that you need to galvanize and bring together to help drive that. If you could just embed one growth habit across your whole agency, what would it be?
It would be what I call the pub pitch.
The pub pitch, right?
Pub pitch. So you're in a pub with your mate or your family or whoever it is, and someone comes over, sits down that you've never met before,
Yeah.
and you obviously want to carry on having a nice conversation, probably not talking about work, but they go, "What do you do?" And
Yeah.
they go, "I work at Croud." And you go, "What do Croud do?" And you need to give a 60-second pub pitch
Okay.
of like what Croud do and how they do it, and in a way that is obviously suited in a nice conversational way to that pub environment, as opposed to more of a serious one, but just having a really clear articulation of what Croud do. And I think agencies in general are pretty bad at making sure that its own people can do that.
Yeah.
And actually, we had one of our team came to us the other day, to work on this prospect. And so it's my friend. I've been prospecting them. They obviously didn't say they've been prospecting. They said, "I've been chatting to my friend." So, "Oh, great, you've been prospecting." I've been chatting to a friend, and they got this pitch brief for us, and that doesn't happen anywhere near enough. And I'm not saying I want everyone on Saturday or Sunday
to be pub pitching,
but if I could get everyone to do that, and one of the things we're doing is we're building. Croud is very good at onboarding staff. I've never had a better onboarding to a business of all the agencies I've ever worked at. But I'm adding to it by putting in a 20-minute session so that in someone's first week they've seen our Crowds.
Yeah.
And I'm not expecting, especially if there's someone who's in a really junior, so I'm not expecting them to suddenly be able to deliver it straight back. But I think often in agencies, people can work for an agency for 12 months, 18 months, maybe 2 years, or if until the first time they work on a pitch and they've not even seen.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Creds, right? Yeah. So that's the one thing I'd like people to do. Maybe a bit of a housing dream, but we'll see.
So do you have your 60-second pub pitch for Croud? You can look to camera and we can do it for you. And it alliterates. I love alliteration.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's known as the elevator pitch, but I'm going to steal your phrase. I'm afraid it's now going to be the pub pitch.
Yeah.
And I think when we first met, you were probably only about 8 weeks into the new role, so you probably just about caught your breath now, 4 months in. What are you most excited about at Croud over the next 12 months?
I'm most excited about some of the cross-sell that we're doing, particularly in the creative space. So we bought a few years the social first creative agency, Born Social. They were 60-70 headcount when Croud acquired them. They're now 3 times that.
Wow.
Worked for some amazing brands like Guinness and Ford, and more and more we're able to get some of our clients that just use us for our media services to try them out from a social first creative point of view. So there are now some clients that we're buying their paid search and we're making their social ads. That's a really nice spectrum.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of clients like that. If I can double and triple the amount of clients that are using us for that in the next 12 months, I think that will become quite sticky. And that's really exciting.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us. Before we go, what has been your best moment in Cannes since you've been here? We're now Thursday morning, so
my best moment was yesterday. I went to a very intimate fireside chat. There's about 20-25 people there, courtesy of Smartly, with Shantanu Narayan, who's the CEO of Adobe.
Right.
And he's been the CEO of Adobe for almost 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
And obviously a business that has everything from MarTech through to being at the forefront of AI, but just fundamental sorts of things that we do. It's a very creative company. Just hearing him speak for 45 minutes was equal parts inspiring and made me feel completely inadequate. But that was definitely my highlight, one of those pinch yourself moments.
Yeah.
Particularly then when afterwards I was Googling him and found out he's the 8th highest paid CEO in the world.
Wow.
Took home $53 million last year. So you kind of don't want this to be a nice person, right? And he was.
So you're rich and nice.
You're rich, you're nice, and you're really smart.
Yeah.
So that was definitely my highlight. One of those kind of reasons when you realise you're in this industry and you go, "Wow, that's pretty cool."
Absolutely. Well, James, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on from the beautiful south of France, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Cheers.